You tried silence. It felt good for a minute, but silence alone won't remake your life. If you want people to feel the change and for you to actually move on with power and dignity, you need a plan that upgrades your emotions, your routines, and the way you show up. Today, I'll give you a practical, no-nonsense blueprint to reclaim your worth, amplify your presence, and leave behind the old version of yourself for good. When a relationship ends, most people think the pain is about losing the person. In reality, a large part of the pain comes from losing who you were with them, the routines, the roles, the emotional identity attached to that connection. That's why no contact alone isn't enough. Silence stops communication, but it does not automatically rebuild self-concept. To truly rise, you have to reconstruct the version of yourself that existed before the relationship and evolve beyond it. This is where identity rebuilding begins, and it's one of the most powerful, life-changing phases after separation. Start by recognizing that relationships shape your identity more than you notice. You adapt your schedule around someone, you adopt shared habits, you form emotional reflexes based on what keeps peace or gains affection. When the relationship ends, you're not only grieving the person, you're grieving the loss of structure, validation, and predictability. This is why many people feel lost, restless, or disconnected after cutting contact. There's a void where a version of yourself used to live. That void needs to be filled intentionally, not with distraction, rebound energy, or emotional bargaining, but with deliberate rebuilding. The first step is reconnecting with the parts of yourself that existed before the relationship. Write down 3 things you genuinely loved about yourself before that chapter of your life. These could be skills, habits, personality traits, or passions you used to pour energy into. Maybe you were disciplined with fitness. Maybe you loved learning, reading, or building something creative. Maybe you were more confident, more social, or more driven. Relationships often dilute personal focus, not because they are inherently damaging, but because emotional energy shifts. Now, your task is to reclaim what made you feel grounded and proud. Re-engage with those qualities through small, repeatable actions. Identity does not rebuild through wishful thinking. It rebuilds through intentional behavior. If you used to wake up early and exercise, start with a 10-minute morning stretch or walk. If reading or learning used to excite you, dedicate 15 minutes a day to learning something new. If you used to enjoy planning and setting goals, sit down once a week and outline mini targets. You don't need dramatic action, you need consistency. Small routines, repeated with discipline, do more to restore self-worth than any emotional outburst or social performance ever could. Next, create new identity anchors. After separation, there's a unique opportunity to upgrade your identity beyond who you were with that person. Think of 3 qualities you want to embody in this next chapter: resilience, financial maturity, elegance, emotional intelligence, discipline, self-respect, anything you value. Then match each quality with a daily or weekly habit. If you want discipline, set structured wake-up times. If you want emotional intelligence, practice reflection or guided journaling. If you want self-respect, implement personal boundaries and stick to them. Identity isn't just who you were, it's who you repeatedly choose to become. You must also relearn how to self-validate. In a relationship, praise, reassurance, and attention often come externally. When that source disappears, many people feel invisible or unworthy. That's not because they lack value, it's because they outsource their internal validation system. Reclaim it by acknowledging your efforts, celebrating progress privately, and recognizing your own growth. When you rely on your efforts and discipline for confidence, outside reactions become bonuses, not necessities. Another crucial part of identity rebuilding is environment. Your surroundings influence your mindset. Maybe the home feels quiet, maybe routines feel unfamiliar. Instead of avoiding that feeling, reshape your environment to reflect your new identity. Rearrange furniture, declutter, change your workspace, refresh your wardrobe gradually, bring in plants, candles, or music that reflects calm strength. Your space should feel like a reset, not a reminder. Lastly, allow yourself to evolve socially, rediscover friendships, build new ones if needed, and immerse yourself in communities aligned with your growth. Healthy social presence rebuilds confidence, perspective, and emotional rhythm, not to replace anyone, but to remember that your life exists in dimensions wider than one connection. Emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care. It means learning how to experience emotions without being controlled by them. After a breakup or emotional separation, especially when no contact begins, there is usually a surge of emotional noise: sadness, anger, confusion, longing, ego wounds, and sometimes a quiet numbness that feels equally unsettling. These emotions are not signs of weakness, they are signals. But without emotional mastery, those signals turn into spirals, and spirals lead to unnecessary suffering, impulsive behaviors, and emotional regression. Emotional mastery is the discipline of not letting internal storms dictate your direction. The first step is acknowledging what you feel without exaggerating it or dramatizing it. Many people either suppress emotions until they explode or magnify emotions until they feel powerless. Neither extreme helps. A balanced approach looks like this. When a wave of emotion hits, whether it's sadness in the morning, anger in the evening, or sudden anxiety, pause and identify it clearly. I feel sad. I feel rejected. I feel frustrated. Naming the emotion creates distance between you and the feeling. It shifts you from drowning in it to observing it. Emotion is energy. When you name it, you contain it. Once you identify the emotion, give yourself structured time to feel it. Unstructured emotional processing leads to looping, overthinking, scrolling through memories, checking social media, replaying conversations. Instead, set a 15 to 20-minute window. Sit with the emotion intentionally. If you want to cry, cry. If you need to journal, write a few lines. If you feel restless, breathe and let the energy move through you. The goal isn't to erase the feeling in that window. It's to let it exist without letting it hijack your day. Feel it, acknowledge it, release the need to judge it, then gently move on. After emotional acknowledgement comes redirection. Every intense emotion carries energy. If you don't direct that energy, it will direct you, often toward impulsive decisions like messaging, stalking, venting to the wrong people, or distracting yourself with unhealthy coping habits. Instead, choose a simple physical or cognitive action to redirect your emotional energy. A walk, a shower, breath work, a quick workout, organizing your desk, reading a chapter of a book, or focusing on one meaningful task. Emotions need movement. They cannot dissolve in stillness if your mind remains active. You don't escape emotions, you guide them. Another crucial part of emotional mastery is changing the narrative you attach to your pain. Emotional suffering increases when you attach identity to emotion. Statements like, I was not enough, I lost something irreplaceable, or I'll never feel that way again, make the emotion bigger than it is. Emotional pain becomes destructive when it becomes a story of inadequacy instead of a temporary phase of life. Reframe your thoughts realistically. I am adjusting. This feeling is temporary. I'm learning emotional strength. The words you choose determine whether emotion becomes fuel or poison. Emotional triggers are another aspect you must understand. After separation, triggers appear in music, places, photos, scents, routines, and sometimes unexpected moments. Instead of avoiding or fearing triggers, build tolerance by facing them gradually. Avoiding forever gives power to the trigger. Facing them in controlled doses teaches your nervous system to handle discomfort. You don't have to run toward memories, but you also don't have to surrender your life to them. Emotional resilience is built through exposure, not escape. An important practice in emotional mastery is replacing reaction with reflection. Before responding to any emotional impulse, like texting someone, posting something out of emotion, or venting impulsively, pause and ask, is this action aligned with who I want to become? That single question introduces maturity into emotional behavior. Most emotional mistakes happen in seconds. Most emotional growth happens in silence and patience. Finally, build practices that support emotional stability on a daily basis. Breath work, short journaling, gratitude, morning sunlight, daily movement, limiting overstimulation, mindful routines. These are emotional tools, not trends. Emotional mastery is not achieved during emotional explosions. It is built in the quiet hours when you choose discipline over emotional autopilot. The more consistently you create inner order, the less chaos can control you. Leveling up after separation isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's not about posting change or flaunting progress. True elevation happens quietly at first, in your habits, your discipline, and the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. A breakup exposes the gaps in your routines. your emotional structure, and sometimes your life direction. Instead of collapsing into those gaps, you use them as space to rebuild stronger. Growth is not about rushing. It is about choosing intentional improvement over emotional stagnation. When you level up, you don't chase validation. You create a life that generates confidence from within. Start by establishing structure. Emotional disruption often disrupts daily routine. Sleep patterns shift, eating habits fluctuate, motivation dips. Structure is what restores your internal stability. Begin with 3 anchors every morning: movement, planning, and learning. Movement doesn't have to be intense. It can be a brisk walk, stretching, yoga, or a structured workout. The goal is to remind your body that life moves forward. Planning can be a simple list of 3 priorities. Not 40 tasks, not chaotic goals, just 3 meaningful things that move you forward. Learning can be reading, listening to an insightful podcast, studying a skill, or watching something that adds value. When your mornings are anchored, your day gains direction. Next, take control of your physical energy. Whether you like it or not, your outer world influences your inner world. Physical health is deeply connected to mental clarity and emotional resilience. Incorporate strength training or any consistent fitness routine that challenges you. Improve your nutrition gradually, not through extreme rules. More water, clean meals, consistent timings, and reducing emotional eating. Better sleep isn't optional, it's foundational. You don't grow from exhaustion, you grow from recovery and discipline. When you treat your body like a valuable asset, your mindset begins to mirror that respect. Then elevate your mental world. Mental growth requires input, not noise, but nourishment. Cut back on emotional content consumption, gossip cycles, and pointless scrolling. Replace emotional stimulation with intellectual stimulation. Read books that challenge thought, not just comfort emotion. Watch content that expands worldview, not content that keeps you stuck in the same emotional loop. Dedicate weekly time to a skill, something that makes you more capable and more confident. Skills compound, and capability is one of the most attractive and stabilizing qualities a person can develop. When your mind grows, your decisions evolve and your life naturally follows. Upgrade your environment as well. Your space reflects your mindset, and your mindset absorbs your environment. Declutter your room, your wardrobe, your desk, your digital spaces. Organize your life visually. Clean spaces reduce internal chaos. Add subtle elements that promote peace. Plants, clean corners, neutral colors, meaningful decor. Create a workspace that feels intentional, not accidental. Your environment should feel like a place where progress happens, not where emotional loops repeat. Social elevation matters too, but not in performative ways. Instead of disappearing into isolation or jumping into social chaos, build meaningful connections. Surround yourself with people who value discipline, vision, faith, growth, ambition, and emotional maturity. Join a gym, class, or group that aligns with your goals. Attend events, take workshops, engage in real conversations. You don't need a crowd, you need alignment. When you are around people building themselves, you naturally rise with them. Another key aspect of leveling up is appearance, not vanity, but self-respect. Grooming, cleanliness, posture, dressing with intention, and taking pride in how you present yourself signals inner care. It's not about brands or trends. It's about showing effort. Appearance influences energy. When you carry yourself with dignity, you feel differently, and people treat you differently. Presentation is part of presence. Finally, quiet elevation has more power than loud transformation. You don't need to broadcast change. Consistency will reveal it. Focus on depth over display, quality over noise, discipline over drama. Small improvements compound into radical identity shifts. You don't reinvent yourself overnight. You evolve through daily decisions, repeated actions, and sustained commitment to becoming someone you respect, admire, and trust. Social proof after separation is not about flaunting your life to trigger someone or show them what they lost. That kind of energy is reactive, temporary, and rooted in insecurity. True social proof is quiet confidence built through genuine connections, healthy environments, and visible growth that speaks for itself. The moment your worth becomes tied to external reactions, you lose power. So the goal is not to use people as props or your life as a display. The goal is to build an ecosystem around yourself that reflects stability, evolution, and maturity, because people naturally gravitate toward those who rise gracefully. After emotional disruption, many people either isolate in silence or overcompensate with loud social presence. Both extremes stem from emotional extremes. You're not here to disappear, nor are you here to perform. You're here to reconnect with the world in a way that builds you, not drains you. Start by identifying who in your life adds strength to you. There are people who encourage discipline, motivate progress, speak the language of growth, and hold high standards. Reach out to them. Not to vent, not to gossip, but to reconnect intentionally. A simple message like, let's catch up this week is enough. You don't need emotional dumping, you need emotional elevation. Then rebuild your social rhythm gradually. You don't have to be everywhere, but you should not confine yourself to emotional isolation. Humans need connection, healthy connection. Start with environments aligned with your evolution. Fitness groups, professional communities, book clubs, skill workshops, volunteering circles, business events, wellness spaces. These places give you access to people who are also working on their better selves. When your surroundings improve, your mindset follows. Growth is contagious, and so is stagnation. Choose wisely where you place your energy. Now consider your online presence. Social media is not your enemy, but it becomes destructive when used for emotional signaling instead of authentic expression. Don't post to prove anything. Post to reflect your journey. You don't need long announcements or dramatic transformation statements. Subtle consistency is more powerful than sudden noise. Share wins, habits, insights, books you're reading, small achievements, moments of discipline, healthy routines, nature walks, new experiences. Not forced positivity, grounded progress. A life that moves forward quietly is far more impressive than one that tries too hard to be seen. At the same time, practice digital boundaries. Avoid reaction posting, avoid sharing pain impulsively, avoid stalking, watching stories obsessively, or monitoring someone's life that weakens your emotional presence. Social proof is not created by watching them, it is created by building you. Curate your digital space. Unfollow accounts that drain your energy. Consume content that inspires growth, not comparison. Remember, the content you consume shapes the identity you build. Your social energy should also reflect emotional composure. No bad-mouthing, no bitterness, no indirect posts. That quiet peace becomes its own statement, stronger than any attempt to prove strength. When you hold yourself with grace, others notice. Emotional maturity is more attractive than emotional performance. People respect individuals who respond to pain with discipline and dignity, not drama or desperation. Celebrate small wins socially, but with intention. If you start a new hobby, post a clip. If you complete a book, share a line. If you start a fitness habit, show the discipline, not just the result. This isn't about displaying perfection. It's about documenting growth in a way that naturally signals evolution. Authentic visibility means showing progress without needing praise for it. Praise becomes a bonus, not a fuel. Social proof also includes rebuilding your contribution to others. Help people, offer kindness, support someone's journey, share knowledge, uplift where you can, influence without announcing it. When you add value, you become valuable. When you build others, you build your own presence. Confidence is not loud, it is lived through action and energy. And remember, strong social proof is silent self-assurance combined with visible consistency. Not attention-seeking, but purpose living. Not trying to be seen, but naturally being noticed because you've stepped into a version of yourself that radiates balance, depth, and growth. Your presence becomes your message, your discipline becomes your reputation, and your transformation becomes evident without ever needing to say a word. Boundaries are not built to punish others. They are built to protect you. After separation or emotional detachment, one of the most important internal skills you must develop is boundary structure. Without boundaries, emotions dictate behavior, past connections influence decision-making, and external energy drains your growth. With boundaries, you move from being reactive to being intentional. Boundaries create emotional safety, mental clarity, and self-respect. They tell the world, and more importantly yourself, what is acceptable and what is not. When someone leaves your life, the strength of your boundaries determines whether you collapse or rise. Boundaries start with clarity. You cannot enforce what you haven't defined. Begin by identifying the areas of your life where emotional leakage happens most. It could be in communication, social media, physical access, emotional availability, or time spent thinking about the past. Write down what behaviors drain your energy. Overthinking, checking their profile, responding out of loneliness, trying to stay connected, accepting mixed signals. Every one of those moments is a breach of your personal boundary. Emotional liberation begins with internal honesty. When you are aware of your leaks, you stop blaming situations and start reinforcing yourself. Next, practice emotional distance with discipline. No contact is one boundary, but it is not the only one. Even if communication has stopped, emotional engagement might still exist. Replaying memories, analyzing conversations, fantasizing about closure, seeking validation, or wondering how they perceive your silence. These invisible attachments drain more energy than physical presence ever could. Build a rule. When your mind drifts to that person, you gently redirect it to something productive. Not forcefully, not with guilt, with discipline. Emotional boundaries require repetition and patience, not self-judgment. Energy management begins with protecting your attention. Your attention is the currency of your emotional life. Where you place it, you feed it. If you spend hours thinking about someone who is no longer contributing to your life, you are investing your energy in a memory instead of your future. Attention must be reclaimed through focus rituals, task lists, time blocking, designated hours for self-work, daily goals, journaling prompts, and limited digital distraction. The more structured your day becomes, the harder it is for emotional noise to dominate your mind. Boundaries also exist in communication style. If contact becomes necessary due to shared responsibilities or unavoidable circumstances, your tone must remain neutral, concise, and emotionally contained. No emotional explanations, no indirect meanings, no seeking approval, no emotional negotiations. Speak with clarity, respond when needed, and leave conversations with dignity. The goal is not coldness, the goal is emotional control. When you stop giving emotional access, you regain emotional power. Another aspect of boundaries is learning the power of no. Many people fear saying no because they fear loss of approval, loss of connection, loss of comfort. But every yes you give for the sake of comfort becomes a no to your growth. Boundaries are not selfish, they are self-respect. Practice small no's, declining unnecessary conversations, avoiding draining environments, refusing old emotional patterns, stepping away from gossip, limiting those who dump negativity on you. Each no strengthens your self-worth. Energy protection also includes evaluating who you surround yourself with now. Some people fuel your clarity, ambition, and peace. Others amplify insecurity, chaos, and emotional dependency. After separation, your nervous system is sensitive. You cannot afford emotional environments that destabilize you. Choose company that encourages routine, discipline, learning, and self-respect. If someone drains you, distance yourself quietly. You don't need dramatic exits. Boundaries do not require noise. Give structure to your emotional environment as well. Silence can heal you or hurt you depending on how you use it. Fill your silence with habits that ground you: reflection, prayer, journaling, exercise, reading, creative focus. Avoid unstructured emotional isolation. It leads to rumination. Boundaries are not only external, they are internal systems that keep your attention aligned with your growth. Finally, learn to walk away without negotiation, explanation, or emotional debate. When a situation repeatedly costs your peace, disconnect mentally first, then physically if needed. Emotional boundaries are tested not when things are easy, but when you feel tempted to slip back into old patterns. Every time you choose your peace over emotional impulse, you train your nervous system to operate from strength, not attachment. Long-term transformation is not a phase, it's a lifestyle shift. It's easy to feel motivated in the beginning, right after emotional impact, when the pain is fresh and the ego is activated. But motivation fades, emotions settle, and life starts to feel normal again. That is where most people stop. They slip back into old habits, old patterns, and old versions of themselves because the urgency disappears. True transformation is measured not by how strongly you start, but by how consistently you rebuild yourself long after the emotional intensity fades. Real growth begins when the emotional trigger is gone, yet your commitment remains. The first foundation of long-term transformation is identity vision. You need clarity about who you want to become, not in vague language like better, stronger, or successful. Clarity means specifics. What kind of habits will you practice? What kind of emotional stability will you develop? How will you handle stress, loneliness, setbacks, achievements, and relationships? Who do you see yourself as 6 months from now? 1 year? 5 years? When you have a defined identity target, your actions stop being random and start becoming aligned. You no longer move based on mood, you move based on direction. The second foundation is consistency over intensity. Big emotional bursts feel powerful, but small daily habits build power. You don't need radical routines, you need sustainable discipline. 10 pages of reading daily, 20 minutes of exercise, a weekly planning session, daily hydration and nutrition habits, 1 hour a day improving a skill or learning something new, monthly self-check-ins. You transform not by occasional inspiration, but by constant refinement. Small progress compounds into irreversible change. The goal is not perfection, but repetition. Another key aspect is emotional neutrality toward the past. As time passes, memories can soften and emotional attachment may try to resurface. That's natural. The human mind remembers comfort easier than pain. But maturity means acknowledging memories without surrendering your growth. You don't need to hate the past to move forward. You simply need to stop giving it energy. The past is a chapter, not a home. When you stop revisiting emotional archives, you free mental space to build what's next. Environment also plays a strong role in long-term transformation. You cannot build a new life surrounded by old patterns, people who don't grow, or spaces that reflect your past mindset. Upgrade your surroundings step by step. Your room, your wardrobe, your social circle, your digital feed, your hobbies, your conversations. Every subtle upgrade reinforces your new identity. Growth thrives in environments that support evolution, not nostalgia or stagnation. Long-term transformation also demands emotional discipline. There will be days you feel bored, lonely, or discouraged. Days when you question the process or feel tempted to revisit old comfort. Those moments are not signs of failure. They are signs of transition. Growth is uncomfortable because it breaks familiar emotional rhythms. Your task isn't to avoid discomfort, it's to withstand it without collapsing into old habits. Strength comes from staying the path when the path feels ordinary, not exciting. A powerful component of lasting transformation is upgrading your self-standard. Raise the bar on how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you dress, how you work, how you rest, and who you allow near your emotional space. When your standards rise, your life naturally rises with them. You stop chasing validation and start choosing environments, relationships, and routines that align with your worth. Finally, measure your life by progress, not comparison. You are not racing anyone. Your growth is not a performance. It is a private, steady, disciplined evolution. Progress might feel slow in the moment, but 6 months of consistency can produce a version of you that feels unrecognizable in strength, clarity, and self-respect. Long-term transformation becomes your reality when you stop treating improvement as a reaction and start living it as your identity.